Our pain here. Just wanted to let you see this DOGE meeting. It's playing in a loop, and I will leave commentary maybe later on. But I wanted you to catch the beginning of a person's testimony, and we'll play it all the way back so you can see everybody uh, as they speak. Right? Here we go. So we're going to start with this guy.
The guise of foreign aid, USAID has been an unapologetic front for a far-left agenda. It has become self-evident there weren't a handful of foolish policies, but rather a coordinated strategy of radical, idiotic, and often anti-American priorities. Idiotic, you say? Millions to teach Moroccans how to make pottery? The Moroccans were making pottery before we were a country. This entire debate today and the crocodile tears from Democrats just goes to show what's wrong with this town. Not a single Democrat I've heard has expressed dismay at the many examples of crazy, wasteful spending. I don't understand the objection to a deep dive in how we spend our money, but perhaps it's the fact that over the last several weeks, a massive surge has occurred in the search for a criminal defense attorney. That probably says it all. 5 times in this city, any other city in the nation. I'd like to remind the committee that President Kennedy unilaterally created USAID through an executive order in 1961. Yet the President Trump, orders a momentary pause after winning a mandate for reform, and Democrats cry, constitutional crisis. This is after 4 years of reckless spending and unrepentant lawlessness from the Biden administration. I want the American people to understand how this works in Washington. As long as you're spending other people's money, no one bats an eye. But the second you want to save taxpayer dollars, the swamp cries wolf, or in this case, unprecedented constitutional crisis. This breathless, fake outrage from the left is utterly insane. And you know what the American people, you know they can see right through it. The generosity of Americans and the blessing of giving aid to others has always been one of our most valuable tools for diplomacy. The American people have a proud history of championing aid to our fellow man, but lawless bureaucrats have poisoned that goodwill. Many USAID programs are wasteful and actively sabotage our diplomatic relationships by forcing woke ideology on our partners. Just look at PEPFAR, a beacon of hope in the fight against HIV/AIDS, yet the Biden administration even weaponized this crucial program, jeopardizing lives and undermining our relationship with African nations. Under Administrator Powers, our message to Africa was explicit, as it was heinous. Abort your babies and violate your religious convictions, or we won't grant you life-saving aid. Let me be crystal clear to those who've been complicit in this betrayal. Firing those involved is just a start. We have a long way to go. And one last point. I want to correct the record on a couple of things. First, Elon Musk and the team that is working does not have access to personal data. They don't have access to your social security number. That is a lie. Elon Musk does have a security clearance. He has a top secret security clearance. By God, he makes the rockets for NASA. But the suggestion that he somehow can't be trusted to dig into how we're spending our money is nothing but a smokescreen to hide the corruption and the wasteful spending that has occurred there. And I am personally offended at the left's continued references to 19-year-olds and 21-year-olds in there doing work. There are 19-year-olds who have won the Medal of Honor defending this country. Just because you're 19 doesn't mean you're some child who can't be trusted. It is offensive. And if you're 19 years old out there, 20 years old, and you're serving this country, by God, your service matters. Keep serving. We thank you for that.
Many USAID foreign assistance grants are not only wasteful, but counterproductive to our diplomatic and foreign policy objectives. Just a few examples: $75,000 for a drag show workshop in Ecuador, $37 million for services for sex workers and their clients and transgender people in South Africa, $31 million for providing U.S. aid employees with resilience, wellness, and work-life balance counseling. $24 million to build green transportation alternatives in Georgia. $500,000 to help Indonesian coffee companies become more climate and gender friendly. $15 million to promote LGBT rights for individuals in Kenya. And $2 million to conduct sex change surgeries in Guatemala through a trans-led organization. My colleagues on the other side of the aisle are whining that President Trump has fired the Inspector General of this agency. Thank goodness for President Trump for firing an Inspector General for not exposing what Elon Musk has exposed with this waste. Are these programs what hardworking American taxpayers should be funding? But let me focus on Uganda because my colleague from Texas raised that issue, a country that has thousands of soldiers fighting for our counterterrorism interests against al-Shabaab in Somalia. And that country was severely punished by the Biden administration for signing its anti-homosexuality law into law in May of 2023. The Biden administration revoked Uganda's AGOA eligibility, enacted visa restrictions on Ugandan individuals, and pressured the World Bank to prohibit new public financing. Despite this, USAID has provided a $600,000 grant to, quote, empower Uganda's LGBT community to push back against this legislation, and a $5.4 million grant to shift public perception and attitudes in Uganda towards LGBT acceptance and to train LGBT individuals on the skills needed to engage in the economy. Now, in Uganda, China is expected to finance the $5 billion East African crude oil pipeline directly because Western leaders and the World Bank are walking away from the project because the Biden administration's response to their own domestic legislation. Mr. Primorak, should taxpayer dollars go toward penalizing countries like Uganda for making their own internal domestic political decisions on social issues that one administration doesn't agree with, which in turn strengthens countries' relationships with our adversaries like the communists in China?
Congressman, I've spoken to many officials from the region there, and they explained to me their shock when they would prepare for meetings with Secretary Blinken. They prepared about how can we work together to combat China, actually. But when they had the meeting, they were hit with the woke things about the climate, about the LGBT, and all these issues. They were utterly stunned that here they are, Africa. They know about the challenge and the great geostrategic fight that we have, ready to work with us, but we weren't ready to work with them.
Well, look, I get it. The gentleman from Texas disagrees with the Ugandan people. I get it. The Biden administration disagreed with the Ugandan people, and Secretary Blinken and USAID in the previous administration disagreed with the Ugandan people on this issue of homosexuality legislation. I get it. The question is not their opinion. The question is, what is the diplomatic job of the State Department and USAID? Is it to lecture the Ugandans, or is it to help us counter Belt and Road? Is the job of the State Department and USAID to advance American national security? That's the question. And what they did in that instance with Uganda is compromise American national security and empower our adversary. Representative Yoho, Ted, it's good to see you. Thank you for your amazing work and your authorship of the BUILD Act. You were instrumental in the passage of that bill and authorized U.S. International Development Finance Corporation. Can you see DFC playing a much more effective role in advancing our interests abroad and countering China's Belt and Road?
Absolutely.
And if you could, how can reforms like equity scoring and country eligibility changes help U.S. investments in countries like Panama?
It's a big reform. I mean, that's the best tool we have to counter the BRI, the Belt Road Initiative, and the equity scoring is a must fix. It's something that has to be, because right now it limits what the DFC can do, and then raising the country of eligibility allows us to go into these countries strategically where we can counter the BRI where we can't go now. And this is something that we're going to talk about next month in the reauthorization. And I hope it's a bipartisan effort, and there's a lot of support, but if we don't do it, we're going to see that much more influence, and it goes to people that aren't friendly to the United States.
Well, thanks for your leadership on that. And I agree with you. Move from aid to trade.
To trade.
And thank you to President Trump for his leadership on rooting out all of this waste and frankly, activity that undermines our national security.
Time has expired.
I am very distraught because some of the programs that we have been talking about come from the region that I represent. Many people in South Florida that come from those countries of origin: Guatemala, Venezuela, and Peru. So I understand, Mr. Inacios, that you do not agree with the way that Elon Musk has conducted his investigation into USAID. But I do believe, coming from the world of television, that you are judged by the results, not by the process. And Musk has discovered things that are completely and absolutely embarrassing. And in my, specifically in the region that I'm saying that I'm representing a lot of constituents. So I want to salute you because you said that you did the job, you were the administrator, that you went line by line, that you were cleaning up the different programs, that you took your job very seriously. But apparently we are in different times. And I'm just going to share with you within the time that I have 3 programs coming from Latin America, which I think that are highly embarrassing. Let's start with Venezuela. And here's the video that Chairman played before. Venezuelans are fleeing Marxism. They're hungry. The average Venezuelan weighs 15 pounds less because of lack of food. We know that Chavez has destroyed the country. They make it to Ecuador. They're tired. And then they encounter that the United States, which is the beacon of hope, is offering this program to become a drag queen. So I think there's something wrong with that picture. And I'm not sure if we can play it again, but I just wanted your opinion.
Well, that particular program was a State Department program. And I have great respect for the State Department, but I think it's appalling they did it, to be very frank with you.
So you do not agree with those $35,000
No,
invested?
I don't. I think we should stick with our basic mission.
Yeah, well, but you agreed that they have not under you.
Oh,
but
no, they have not.
They have not.
And I
Okay,
think
so
that
let's
needs
go
to
to, I
be
just want to
changed.
hear your thoughts because unfortunately
Just
time
one
is of the
comment,
essence. $2 million
Congresswoman.
for Native Indians in Guatemala. President Giammattei called me. I've never had a president from a country saying, I don't want the United States money. Highly conservative. These are the Native Indians in Guatemala, people who are just, flipping the tortillas and they just want to learn how to do a job, not sex change surgeries. What do you think about that?
That's beyond what this AID mission is. I don't think we
Good.
should be.
That's all we need to know. Peru, in the Amazon. This is the jungle. This is not just Jeff Bezos' Amazon. This is like where people have harsh conditions. They need mosquito nets to fight malaria. So $25,000 for diversity recruitment events. What is a diversity recruitment event in the middle of the jungle?
I have no idea. Congressman, just one comment. You can move aid to do what you want by hiring a development professional, a conservative, who knows how to manage a large, complex operation. Mark Green was such a person, okay, under
Okay,
Trump.
but then what happened between your time and this time? Tell me, what happened?
Well, politics gets involved.
Oh, politics. But then Elon Musk comes and tries to clean politics and go back to the original
Right.
mission of the
I
program.
think
Is
it
that
would be-
correct?
I think it would be useful if Musk and some of his staff would go to the field and see the projects.
Well, I don't,
I
I'm
think
not
they would
sure, but
take a
wait,
different
I'm
view.
sure they don't have time, sir, to do that. But what I'm saying is that he did something that, according to what you just explained, it brings benefit to the USAID programs.
The USAID staff do what the political appointees tell them to do.
Well,
right?
okay,
They don't initiate these things.
they don't.
Oh,
So that means that all these directives came from the White House.
the White House, yes, and the State Department.
So then, okay, but then the White House, the State Department responds to the White House.
They-
So you are telling me that under the Biden administration, the USAID lost its course, yes or
I
no?
think AID needs to be more independent of the
And you
political
just told me,
wars
you just
in
told me that the
Washington.
State Department is the one that directs
Yes,
that, okay, and the State Department responds to the White House.
that's correct.
All right, so that means then that the White House gave the wrong directives to USAID.
In my view, in my view.
In your view, good.
Yes.
Thank you. Well, that's all we needed to know. So now we have a new sheriff in town called Donald Trump, and then that guy brought another guy called Elon Musk to do the job, something that no one else has done before. So why do we need to criticize him?
Because he doesn't know anything about development. He may be a genius at technology. He does not know anything about development.
But
The
it
stuff
has,
they've
but it,
been-
yo, wait. Development has nothing to do with what is the mission statement for USAID? For the native Indians in Guatemala to change their sex surgeries has nothing to do with that.
$15 billion was spent on humanitarian assistance in emergencies and refugee camps. There's particular skills you learn in doing that. I did that.
I understand,
know
but
what that
you're
is.
talking about what works. I'm talking about what does not work.
Gentlelady's time
Thank
has
you.
expired.
I appreciate, Chairman.
No.
Thank you, sir, for your time.
I would also let you know, Ms. Salazar, that I've had numerous calls from ambassadors during the Biden administration who intend to provide us with the reprimands that they wrote against career employees who were undermining their work, doing these programs that they didn't want, but did them anyways, and the administration didn't care. And we look forward to bringing those things to light as well. President Trump, in my opinion, is absolutely making America immeasurably stronger by gutting USAID and gutting the State Department forthcoming. He is making it clear that there is no more stupid social engineering programs that will continue. No more comic books for $50,000 or $50,000 trans operas. No more $800,000 job fairs in Bangladesh for trans individuals, specifically in a country where the average monthly wage is $220. These things come to an end. Asking the questions, are Americans better because that dollar came out of their pocket and went to these programs or not? That is a bar that we have to hold ourselves to. Should somebody working today have kept those dollars in their pocket instead of sending their dollars to programs like those? There's not a more important question that we could ask. Are President Trump and Secretary Rubio and Elon Musk and his team, are they eliminating waste? Absolutely yes. Are they making the system accountable where the buck stops with Secretary Rubio? Yes. Secretary Rubio is in fact encouraging important life-saving programs to continue. America is significantly stronger every minute the wasteful programs are ended, and we are weakened every minute that they are allowed to continue. We gave the Biden administration and my Democrat colleagues the chance to work on oversight. One easy example that I worked on personally would be the expansion of atheism in Nepal with $500,000 grants. My colleagues played the game, admit nothing, deny and lie about all of it, and make counter accusations. Even with all of the documents laid directly in front of them. That's what took place. We tried. They wouldn't do it. I know Americans are not stupid. They know there is no value for them in a $100,000 DEI survey in Ghana. They know that there's not value for them spending $520 million to pay ESG consultants to teach people in Africa about climate change. Also, what is extremely telling to all of us is the amount of grant recipients who are not asking for waivers. They know that the gig is up and do not even want to try and justify what it is that they had been doing, the way that they were grifting off of Americans who are going to work each and every day. What is not surprising is that my colleagues have tried to lie to American people, saying that people are dying. We've heard that argument before again and again. My colleagues have said about 10 times, at least in this hearing, that there was an elderly lady in Thailand who died because they couldn't get her the oxygen she needed because America cut off aid. Let's tell the truth about what really happened. The NGO who was providing oxygen, International Rescue Committee, known as IRC, Their CEO, David Miliband, has a salary of about $1.2 million a year. That is the theft, the larceny that's going on at USAID, where the grants, well, even possibly life-saving grants, are paying for high salaries for former British members of parliament. Parts of PEPFAR have been approved for waiver because it provides life-saving medication to people who need it. Certainly not the abortions they were conducting, but that took Secretary Rubio shutting down the program, reviewing the BS that was going on, and correcting it. Combating the spread of Ebola has been approved for waiver because it's life-saving. World Food Program aid in Haiti has been approved for waiver because it's life-saving. What hasn't been approved is the waste, the grift, and the larceny. Now, despite the arguments that we've had today, we do agree that aid can be effective and that aid can advance America's interests. But the countries that receive aid will not receive it if they are taking the United States of America and its people for granted. And it will be life-saving aid, period, not social engineering.
Accountability is coming. Thank you also to our witnesses today. The corruption going on behind USAID's doors has been a wake-up call for all Americans. As chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee, I spent the last 2 years exposing the Biden administration's sabotage of our border and the policies that kept America safe. I saw firsthand their willful refusal to protect this country. Under the guise of foreign aid, USAID has been an unapologetic front for a far-left agenda. It has become
I was going into loop, so I just wanted to stop it there. All right, so listen, I'm not going to stay long because I wanted you to hear this uncut because the way they have it set up is a continuous loop, and I couldn't really stop and start it. But anyway, listen, I don't understand how any true-blooded, loyal American can think that it's okay for an organization to spread a way of spreading American ideals with transgenderism, with abortion, with, all of these things that were said at this committee. We don't even need to have to repeat them. I don't understand. Even the guy who was giving the lady some horse shit about, yeah, there's some good things. Yeah, there were some good things. But for the most part, they clouded those good things with all the debauchery and all the things that weren't good. So yeah, maybe we shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater, and they're not. Rubio is going to reorganize USAID in order for just to do the things that are smart, and we're going to stop trying to spread the worst of America has to offer. Transgenderism. We're going to go back to Uganda and come up with a plan where we don't allow them to give their country over to our enemy, Russia. Because Russia's not going to force them to all be transgenders and all of that bullshit, spread money. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, the Chinese, I should say, not Russians, the Chinese will go in and take Africa. In 50 years, China will do to Africans what the Europeans did to Africans. And this time, China is not going to lose their stronghold. If America doesn't go in and carve out at least some beneficial relationships with whatever's left of Africa, if we can find some righteous leaders in Africa, which is very hard to find, it seems like they're all corrupt and they sell their people out at the drop of a dime everywhere, just about. It's crazy. Excuse me. So anyway, listen, I'm gonna end it here. Listen to this thing on the loop. I think you hear all you need to know about USAID and what DOGE has uncovered in the first, few weeks of operation. If we can get all the waste, fraud, and abuse as best we can out of the budget going forward, we can save as much as we can for 2025, but we can make 2026 a banner year we might even have an opportunity to actually balance the budget. Anyway, our pain, marriage, politics, and sports, over and out.